I was there when it was born and fucking hated it. I was like, what are you doing? This song, you've robbed it of its energy. And then 3 hours later I was singing it and I was like, no, you've done something, Dave. Like there's an infectious groove there. And it's Dave, it's 110% Dave. Like don't believe anybody that tells you anything else. I remember like when he started slowing things down and like, Dave he's a good dude. Like he's like one of these guys that can't sit still. Like even when you're on a really long flight and everybody's tired and touring and passed out, like he's pulling stuff up and doing edits in Ableton and putting like fart noises in songs that doesn't belong. And like he's just like a really awesome, fun dude. And he just started slowing stuff down and like all of a sudden it was just like, yo, like there's something here. You know, he did some shit, it was fun, and a lot of people related to it, and it felt natural to his identity, and I felt like it kind of fit a lot to what was going on here and a lot of other places, so it just kind of caught fire, and, you know, it all worked.
Well, and I remember, man, Dave sent an email to like a group of maybe like 10 of us with like a pack of like 6 or 8 of those edits, the really, really early ones. And he was like, yeah, I think I kind of got something. I've been playing these out. They're going over really well. Like, I'm just sending them to, you know, just a few people. Like, what am I doing? Does this make sense to you guys? That kind of shit. And, you know, I think, at least for me, I listened to them and I was like, this is really weird. This is really fucked up. And I played it.
Like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
Wait, and then Beyonce came on.
Right. Because those early edits, man, it's like, they were more in sort of that party rockin' style. They weren't like tune, they weren't songs, they were kind of just like cobbled together like Frankenstein.
Like pre-legitimacy days of it,
yeah. And but then I played them out and they just went off like crazy.
Is this the recording? Is the timer?
So I think just from that early email and the feedback, he kind of figured out you need to make a lot more of them really fast.
Yeah, feed the machine. I mean, that's one thing we learned from Club too. It was like you have to feed this fucking movement, and that's what it's become, you know. But the funny thing about it is, it's like. I get that a lot of the early ones were tools, you know, but the irony is, like, once you slow down those Dutch house songs, before you even did anything to them, you realized that basically all they did was the opposite. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, this sounds like reggaeton, like, you know what I mean? Like, so it was kind of a lot of ways, kind of bringing it back across the pond. I like that kind of shit, you know?
No, pendejas.
Chaos is a result of me and Marcio Alvendris just kind of hanging around and being part of that movement once Monday started to build it, and just going to those things and being like, yo, this shit is cool, like let's try to do our versions and like and really try to give something that's not just the DJ tool and kind of put our DC stamp on it, you know what I mean?
Chillin', PG chillin'. My name Wale and I came to get it, came to get it. My name Wale. Shit, I start off 09.
I kind of came up like going out to clubs like Nation, Edge, and all over, like dingy, nasty warehouse spots and like, you know, the old Black Hat, like, you know, like just like dingy punk rock spots and raves and shit like that, warehouses. So, you know, to kind of see my city have like a majority of its nightlife places that had more emphasis on making money about the service and dress codes than like any sort of music. It was discouraging to me because I wasn't accustomed to that. But then, you know, separating my personal bias from it, just as a DJ, it kind of sucked because like I wasn't able to play what I wanted to in these places. And I don't want to completely shit on places in DC because I learned how to do a lot of what I know how to do from them. So, you know, like, keep doing your thing. If you like showing up and playing Black Eyed Peas every night, like, I'm not shitting on that. But, like, it just got to the point to where, like, I wanted to separate myself from places that basically had crowds that needed either nostalgic references or pop references or things that was, like, recognizable, you know?
I gotta break in and say, like,
you hate the club.
Fuck that club. No, coming as a DJ from outside of DC, like I don't know if DC always realizes how lucky it is to have a spot like that.
Where'd you move from? Where'd you move from?
Chicago, Illinois. And it's like not only is that for me like the only place that's in the conversation when you're talking about DC, it's like one of the best clubs in the nation, and it's this is a conversation as a touring DJ that I have with DJs all across the country who have played there. Like, you kind of killed it on that one.
I did it all by myself, and I'm paying Willy Joy to say it. Like, thank you.
Yeah, I gotta go.
Would that happen to have anything to do with your absolutely ridiculous sound system you got in there?
Well, I mean, that's part of it. You know, it's like there's a lot of things that I mean, you look at the place. It's no frills in a lot of ways. It doesn't have, you know, fancy sofas or anything like that. It's just like, you know, the major investment.
Can you kind of explain how
it happened?
Yeah.
It kind of happened by accident. In the way that I was on tour in Australia and had this kind of idea. I was like doing parties with policemen, and they got better and better at 930 Club. We went from bringing, you know, 300 to 600 people, like it just kept growing and growing and growing, and like, well, you know, here's a guy that knows how to promote in DC, and he's helped me with my fan base in DC, and you know, I'm traveling a lot, and I think I can kind of get an idea of what I think I like in clubs, and you know, kind of meeting people and friends and homies and agents and stuff like that. So, you know, I felt that I started to see the beginnings of a team, and it just so happened that Brian Miller was starting to do the same thing. Each of us not knowing that the other person kind of had these thoughts, you know. And all of a sudden, this sort of like all-star group of people fell together, and it was like, yes, this person is great at legal, this person is great at advertising, this person is great at booking, and like, it just happened.
What the fuck?
Flavor major, pace bang, a hefty big bang and pizza, big paper. Been with your girl, didn't even have to game her. Shit is fresh, so clean and so gangsta. Not for nothing like it's free or something. Fuck that, I'm in the club, nigga front. With these plastic humans, robots, mannequins, fucking on the floor like they never gonna answer.
I started getting tattoos when I was pretty young, before I think I was supposed to be getting tattoos. And luckily, I don't regret too many of them. But I think that like the sort of me taking it a little bit more seriously probably happened like maybe a few years ago, when I actually started to, it was like, okay, it's not just cool to just do this as a memento or this or that, you know, or you know, I won't even go into all this shit on my body, but like just kind of taking the time to learn a little bit more about artists and culture and process and tradition and technique and all that kind of stuff. And luckily hanging out with guys like Billy and, you know, like people up at Tattoo Paradise, and of course Ghost Town, where I spent most of my DJ money, hanging out with guys like Matt Rinks, and like it's just had a big influence on me in a lot of ways.
So, I think we've all seen you eat a live octopus before. Pretty fucking epic.
Thank you.
Can you tell us kind of the story of how octopuses can be logo trademark?
Sure. I mean, like, I just really, it was one of those things where, like, I'm an adventure theater, that's obvious. And, you know, I kind of always have been, and I like that the idea of sort of eating something alive makes you face what it means to be a carnivore. It's not like, you know, prepackaged meal or something like that or anything like that. It's like this fight or flight thing kind of kicks in, and the octopus is the epitome of that. There's like tons of videos of me kind of eating them in various forms, whether it's like the Korean way where they're all kind of like chopped up into bits, or like the Japanese way, or it's kind of intact and a little bit smaller. But yeah, it's something that I dig, and it's not like on some Fear Factor shit. These are things that, like, you know, I'm a Chinese dude, like grew up eating weird Chinese shit, and I think it just gets worse with age. But these are like traditional things that are around, and you know, it's like just in the way that, like, I would say that, you know, a lot of popular music that's very straightforward doesn't necessarily get me off. Like, I guess maybe the older I get, you know, maybe I'm like that with food as well.
How do you feel about the role of blogs and how EDMs kind of progressed?
I mean, like, blogs were critical for me. Like, if Dave was like, yo, you should put this shit on the holler board, and I was like, what the fuck is a holler board, dog? You know, so it was like Dublo's and Holotronics and like, you know, low budget, and like their early bulletin board, and that kind of led me to things like Disco Bell, and, you know, like some of, like, I guess it's at least my heyday of blogging. Maybe that shit's relative, like, but if it wasn't for a lot of that kind of stuff, like, there's no way I'd be sitting right here talking to you guys and Willy Joy. So, like, blogs, full applause for sure. Yeah, you know, when people were like, hey, you know, they're bootlegging your shit, I'd be like, that's awesome. People want to bootleg my shit, that's cool. But then, you know, you start getting into it and it's like, oh, I've been working 2 years on this song. I'm gonna be pissed if somebody bootlegs it right now. So, you know, it's just a case-by-case basis and like certain where you are in your career and how a label feels. But I mean, you have to appreciate that there's a lot of time and effort that goes into shit on a lot of different levels. So yeah, you have to be respectful of people's content, regardless of what it is, you know.
Rolling Stone and Spin having written articles covering the genre.
Right.
How do you feel about EDM going forth into the mainstream?
I'm 32 years old. This is not the first time I've seen this shit happen, and it probably won't be the last, hopefully. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a blessing and it's a curse, and you know, it's like every time it happens, there's going to be certain things where you're like, wow, that sucks that that's happening, and I can't believe that record exists and is doing well. But then then you also realize that like, okay, this shit is so huge now that there's going to be actually a decent percentage of people that are going to do important, cool, reputable shit within the scene that otherwise would not. I'm kind of one of those people. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people might come into the game listening to something semi on the mainstream tip. Like, you know, somebody that went to a Rusco concert all of a sudden becomes a really legitimately good dubstep producer in a few years, or whatever producer. Or, you know, the same thing probably happened with the Chemical Brothers, the Fatboy Slim, or the Prodigy in previous generations. So, yeah, I'm not mad at it. I mean, just as an artist, like, you know, my whole goal is just to make sure that the shit doesn't lose its fun. How did Bob Barker hold it?
Oh, yeah, like way down.
Like,
you guys.
He had really good posture.
Yeah, always. Yeah.
Is this awkward?
Spay and neuter your bed.
So if it was a Friday night 10 years ago, where do you think you'd be at?
Passed out somewhere in a ditch. Pretty similar to what you see right here. So pretty much the same thing.
Stop it.
Yes, son. Yes, son. Let's do this. Oh, I hope that picks up audio.
Oh man, that's so good.
Hey, you want in on this interview? What the fuck is going on? You want in on this shit? Oh, please tell me you can get the audio working again. Oh, fuck, it's working again?
Yeah, buddy.
What's happening? Hey, what's happening? So this is Billy the Gent. What's up, baby? You have any wise words for these gentlemen? No. No?
It's a fucking party. It's a fucking party.
Any comments, thoughts, concerns, criticisms?
I'm all about Occupy Sesame Street right
That's
now.
what I'm talking about.
I don't know, did you know that 99% of the world's cookies are eaten by 1% of the world's monsters?
I did know that.
I mean, just think about that.
That's why we're so enraged.
And keep in mind, he has to DJ at 1:30. What time is it right now? 8:30. Are you gonna make it? 8:30. Bama, it is not 8:30. Come on, let's go. It's 11.
Dude, are you even wearing a watch?
No.
We're really not this dude. Billy the Gent, everybody.
Billy the Gent. Please continue. Major investment.
Can I get interviewed?
Want in on this?
Yeah. We'll give you a shout out. Alright, so let's switch the subject
A little
up a
promotion.
little bit.
Let me get some FaceTime, pal.
Come on. Words of wisdom, baby. What you got?
Hey, what's up, pal? I'm the #1 bouncer in the neighborhood from Sticky Rice. And I just want to say, party hard, pal!
Got 99 cookies because that bitch ate one. I support the local economy with my eating habits. That's about all I do. Like, that's it. Like, I eat. Oh, this marquee's coming back.
Have a good fucking time, bro! And don't forget your IDs, because if you don't get your IDs, you can't get in. Pow!
Thank you, baby.
Yeah.
I also paid him to do that. Yeah. Nobody beats the biz. Nobody beats the biz.
Yeah.
Biz marquee, everybody.
Interview over.